not overthinking because something is wrong with you. You're overthinking because something inside you is awake, and it's trying, quietly, relentlessly, to be heard. Most people are taught to drown that voice with noise, productivity, scrolling, distractions. But you keep circling the same thoughts at night. The same questions resurface in the shower. The same ache taps on your chest when the world finally goes quiet. You call it anxiety. You call it restlessness. But what if it's neither? What if it's awareness knocking from the inside? What if your mind isn't attacking you, but trying to deliver a message your life has been too loud to receive? This is not chaos. This is a signal. Think about it. Your overthinking doesn't start in moments of deep joy. It arrives in stillness, at red lights, before sleep, after success, after heartbreak, when the performance ends and your real self returns. This is where the truth waits. Throughout history, the same pattern has quietly repeated. When Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath the Bodhi tree, what plagued him first was not peace. It was relentless questioning. When Nikola Tesla withdrew into solitude, his mind did not rest. It spiraled through visions no one else could see. When Vincent van Gogh stared into the night sky, the world called it madness, but inside him was a storm of meaning seeking form. Overthinking has always been the shadow side of seeing too much. And when you see too much, the world feels heavier, lonelier, stranger. This is not a flaw. This is sensitivity to truth. You replay conversations not because you are weak, but because you sensed something unsaid. You project futures not because you are fearful, but because part of you knows your current life is misaligned. You question your path not because you are lost, but because you are outgrowing the role you were conditioned to play. Overthinking is often the soul's rebellion against a life that fits on the outside but not on the inside. This is not overanalysis. This is inner intelligence stirring. Here's the paradox. The more conscious you become, the harder it is to live unconsciously. And when you try anyway, your mind protests in loops and worries and silent alarms. That tight feeling in your chest, it's dissonance. The universe inside you is out of sync with the universe you're moving through. You're not broken. You're becoming aware. And this is where it gets interesting. Because once you understand what overthinking really is, it no longer controls you the same way. It becomes a map instead of a maze, a guide instead of a torment. The noise begins to shape into meaning. This is not isolation. This is initiation. But understanding alone is not enough, because awareness without direction can feel like standing in the middle of the ocean with your eyes open, but your body still unsure which way to swim. And this is where your overthinking grows heavier, not because it's deepening, but because you're resisting what it's pointing toward. You keep asking your mind to quiet down when it's actually asking you to change direction. You keep seeking peace in the same environment that taught your nervous system how to survive, not how to rest. Consider the soldier who comes home from war and cannot sleep in silence. The quiet feels louder than the battlefield ever was. Or the successful entrepreneur who reaches every goal they once dreamed of and then collapses into a strange emptiness they never expected. Or the partner who lies next to someone every night yet feels profoundly unseen. These are not failures of mindset. These are moments when the inner truth no longer agrees to be suppressed. The soul always speaks louder when it has been ignored for too long. Your overthinking intensifies right before transformation, before resignations, before relocations, before breakups, before rebirths. Because the mind senses that the current identity is expiring, but the new one has not yet been fully formed. So you hover in the in-between, and the in-between is loud. This is not confusion, this is transition. You don't overthink when your life is aligned. You overthink when your life and your truth are drifting apart, when your routine no longer matches your values, when your relationships no longer match your depth, when your work no longer matches your inner compass. The discomfort is the compass recalibrating. The The anxiety is the soul refusing to live on autopilot, and slowly something begins to change when you stop fighting it, when you sit with your thoughts instead of fleeing them, when you stop asking, "How do I make this stop?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to show me?" The loops soften, the pressure eases, the same thoughts that once panicked you start to clarify you. This is not mental noise. This is guidance disguised as unrest. But there is one final layer, one most people never reach, because it requires an honesty that feels both terrifying and freeing. And it's this: overthinking doesn't mean you're thinking too much. It often means you're living too little of what you already know is true. And when that realization lands, the third chapter begins. Because here's the quiet truth most people avoid. Your overthinking is often the consequence of postponed courage. It's the echo of all the moments you felt something was off and chose comfort instead of honesty. It's the accumulation of small self-betrayals that looked harmless at the time, staying in conversations that drained you, smiling when you wanted to speak, choosing certainty over meaning. You didn't fail in those moments. You adapted, and adaptation kept you safe once. But safety is not the same as alignment. And now the mind keeps pulling at the same threads again and again because the soul remembers where you left yourself behind. Think of every great turning point in history. Before Abraham Lincoln reshaped a nation, he endured years of internal collapse and doubt. Before Rosa Parks refused to move from her seat, she had long wrestled with unseen fear and quiet rage. Before Steve Jobs returned to rebuild what he once lost, he wandered through uncertainty after being rejected by the very creation he birthed. The world only remembers the moment of action, but the real battle always happens first, in the invisible corridors of the mind. Long before destiny shifts on the outside, it trembles on the inside. Your overthinking is not random. It circles the same themes because they matter. The career you keep questioning, the relationship you keep analyzing, the version of yourself you feel slipping away. These are not obsessions. These are pressure points. The psyche does not haunt you with what is meaningless. It insists only on what is unresolved. You imagine different lives not because you're ungrateful, but because you sense potential that is being underused. You revisit the past, not because you want to live there, but because part of you is still waiting for integration. You worry about the future, not because you're weak, but because the current path feels like it's narrowing your breath. This is not overthinking. This is the system checking for truth. And when you stop calling it a problem, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop medicating the discomfort with distraction. You stop numbing the restlessness with entertainment. You begin to listen, not with urgency, not with fear, but with curiosity. You let the thoughts arise without immediately trying to silence them. And slowly, patterns reveal themselves. What once felt like endless noise starts to sound like a conversation. There is a difference between a mind that is spiraling and a mind that is awakening. Spiraling seeks escape. Awakening seeks coherence. One loops to avoid pain. The other circles because it is approaching meaning. You don't need to fix your overthinking. You need to decode it. What emotion keeps returning beneath the thoughts? What desire keeps whispering beneath the worry? What truth keeps knocking beneath the doubt? When you trace your thoughts back to their emotional root, you often find something simple and honest waiting there. Grief that was never processed, anger that was never expressed, longing that was never honored, intuition that was never trusted. And when that root is finally seen, the mind relaxes, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because the inner conflict begins to dissolve. This is not suppression, this is integration. You start making smaller, truer choices. You cancel plans that drain you. You speak one honest sentence where you once stayed silent. You walk away from one situation that no longer resonates. And each time you choose alignment over performance, a little of the mental noise disappears. The mind softens when it sees the soul being respected. Here's the strange beauty of it. Peace doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives in fragments. In the first night you sleep without rehearsing tomorrow. In the first morning you wake without dread. In the first decision you make without asking everyone's permission. These moments seem ordinary from the outside, but inside, something ancient unlocks. This is not collapse. This is release. Eventually, you realize that overthinking was never the enemy. It was the messenger that refused to be ignored. It showed up when your life drifted from your truth. It intensified when you pretended not to notice. And it quiets not when you force it down, but when you finally move in the direction it was pointing to all along. And perhaps the most liberating realization of all is this: you don't need to become someone new to find peace. You only need to stop abandoning who you already are. The mind becomes loud when the heart is unheard. The thoughts become relentless when the truth is postponed. You are not thinking too much about life. You are thinking too much about a life that isn't fully yours yet. And that awareness is not meant to torture you. It is meant to lead you home. And once you feel that shift, once the noise starts making sense, you begin to understand something even deeper, something gentler, something that changes the way you see yourself forever.